John Dewey, philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer. John Dewey was born on October 20th, 1859, to Archibald Dewey and Lucina Rich of Burlington, Vermont. His mother was the daughter of a wealthy farmer, and his father was a merchant who had left his grocery business to become a Union Army soldier during the Civil War. After the war, his father became the proprietor of a successful tobacco shop, affording the family a comfortable life and financial stability. John attended Burlington Public Schools and excelled as a student. He was just 15 years old when he enrolled at the University of Vermont and graduated 4 years later, second in his class. After college, John taught at a seminary in Pennsylvania, where his cousin was the principal. 2 years later, his cousin resigned and John lost his position. He returned to Vermont and started teaching at a private school. After some time, John took a break from teaching and went to Johns Hopkins University to study philosophy and psychology. In 1884, John received his doctorate and was hired as an assistant professor at the University of Michigan. 4 years later, John left for the University of Minnesota to be a professor of philosophy. After only 1 year, he returned to the University of Michigan for 5 more years. In 1894, he joined the University of Chicago and became the head of the philosophy department. In 1904, John joined the Ivy League and became a professor of philosophy at Columbia University. John continued there until his retirement in 1929, but continued as a professor emeritus, teaching occasionally until 1939. During his time at Columbia, John traveled the world as a philosopher, social and political theorist, and educational consultant. This included countries such as Japan, China, and Turkey. In 1928, John visited Soviet Russia and was featured on the cover of Time magazine. A result of some of his travels was in his book, John Dewey's Impressions of Soviet Russia and the Revolutionary World, Mexico, China, Turkey. John Dewey was a leading proponent of the American school of thought known as pragmatism and was the champion of experiential education, also known as progressive education. A definition of pragmatism is that pragmatism is a philosophical movement that includes those who claim that an ideology or proposition is true if it works satisfactorily, that the meaning of a proposition is found to be in the practical consequences of accepting it, and the unpractical ideas are to be rejected. A simpler definition for pragmatism is dealing with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is based on practical rather than theoretical considerations. In the 1920s and 1930s, John Dewey became famous for pointing out that the authoritarian, strict, preordained knowledge approach of modern traditional education was too concerned with delivering knowledge and not enough with the understanding students' actual experiences. Dewey proposed that a theory of experience was needed in order to be able to understand students' learning experiences and how they might be optimally arranged and facilitated by teachers. Part of what shaped Dewey's moral philosophy stems from the period he lived. John was born before the Civil War, lived through 2 world wars, and the first 5 years of the Cold War. This was a period of amazing social, economic, demographic, political, and technological change. During this time, the United States transitioned from a rural society to an urban society. George Hine wrote that John Dewey's life work was to create a philosophy that encompassed both life experience and thought, and that Dewey attempted to construct a philosophical system that incorporated life as it is lived, not in some ideal form. Writing about the moral component of education, Hine identified that Dewey's educational theory, the center of his entire philosophy, also includes a moral component. For a democratic society, education must consist not only of acquisition of skills and knowledge, but must also include growth and value. For Dewey, as for all progressive educators, growth includes more than understanding and internalizing the customs of the present society. It also encompasses development of the ability to support a society that promotes participatory democracy and improves on current practice. Gregory Pappas wrote that in Dewey's ethics, the moral self is an integral part of the process of reconstructing morally problematic situations. The self, therefore, affects and is affected by its conduct. This establishes a very important organic relation between the quality of what we do and the quality of the character we bring to a situation. Dewey was a prolific writer with over 30 books to his credit. He has also written well over 30 shorter works, pamphlets, and essays in his lifetime. Arguably, Dewey is known best for his publications concerning education, but he has also wrote about many other topics including epistemology, metaphysics, aesthetics, art, logic, social theory, and ethics. In the documentary series Only a Teacher by the Public Broadcasting Service, or PBS, it was said that John Dewey was the most significant educational thinker of his era, and many would argue of the 20th century. As a philosopher, social reformer, and educator, he changed fundamental approaches to teaching and learning. His ideas about education sprang from a philosophy of pragmatism and were central to the progressive movement in schooling. In light of his importance, it is ironic that many of his theories have been relatively poorly understood and haphazardly applied over the past 100 years.